Welcome to Health Pod, your self-development hub
on mental health, psychology, and spirituality.
So a lot of the things is in this world that you cannot explain them, you can only feel them. But to feel them, you need to shed a lot to really embody and engage into what is it that I'm feeling through my body. Most of us, we're living in our head. We're trying to solve everything through our head. Oh, this is not working out, so what can I do? You know, and it's all about trying to solve and find the solution to the problem with the mind. You can heal, but it's all again, are you being a victim and saying that things are happening to you, or are you ready to exit from there and start creating the opportunities and creating the options for yourself?
Welcome back to another episode here on Health Pod. I'm Hélène, I'm an empowerment and embodiment coach, and today we're here with Olga, and we're going to be diving deep into Ayahuasca, the famous plant medicine that you, I'm sure, have heard about. We're going to be talking about how this medicine can perhaps help you in your life and our own personal experiences, as well as deep embodiment practices that you can use to find your highest self. Now let's tune into the episode. First of all, Olga, thank you for being here. It's an absolute pleasure to have you here. I've invited you here today because I find you very interesting and I would love to pick your brains. We've only met once before, and I know that you are a dancer. I know that you have, is it one or two babies?
One.
You've got one baby.
When the space starts speaking about a second one, it seems like someone is waiting for them to come alive.
Perhaps. And I've also happened to meet your mum because coincidentally, but we know there's no such thing as coincidences, your brother and my son are friends at school and they play together. And I find that what you do as a dancer and the experiences that you've had and your interests in mental health, spirituality, and using your body as a tool to feel your emotions is what I would say is very fascinating to me. So let's begin with, why did you become a dancer?
Well, as a child, you know, kids most of the time when they hear music, they start dancing. And I think if we take music separate, there is something very divine about it, about the harmony, about the music, about vibrations. And I think there's a very big connection to God there. So if we look at a child and when they hear music, how naturally they start dancing to it, I think that they're in the state of inspiration. So there's a connection with God. But with time, when you start dancing and then someone starts telling you, that you don't hear music or that you're not good enough, it starts blocking you from really experiencing yourself in dance. And in general, dance, I think, is a very powerful tool. And most of the practices like dynamic meditations, ecstatic dance, women's circles, or any sort of practice, there's always an element of shaking, dancing, and moving the body because it, takes all the blocks out of your body as well as it brings the energy through you. So this is a bit of a separate subject, but I think that a child is very much in tune with this naturally. But growing up, their circumstances happen and most of the people, they stop dancing.
Yes.
And I face this in my work when people come and they're like, I would love to dance, but I'm scared to dance because I have some child trauma that someone once told me that I don't know how to dance. And so I was dancing. My mom noticed that, I'm a dancer. So she sent me into classical ballet and I finished ballet.
Okay.
So
Wow.
for me, actually ballet was my safe space. It was when I could shut out of all the things that were happening in my life as a child, and I could actually enjoy my childhood. So I would come, I would dance, and I would have this divine connection. I would just be in a flow, in inspiration, and I loved it. And so this is how I grew up, being all the time in tune with dance. So at the age of 18, I had an Achilles problem, so I had to stop ballet.
Okay.
And I know that it became like a very depressing time because I didn't know how to express myself. Like, how could what could I do with myself? Around 21, I decided to try out pole dancing, and I straight away fell in love with it because it brought me back the same feeling as I had in childhood. Like I couldn't just dance and express myself. And again, the studio became my safe space where I would come, I would shut out from the whole world, and I could really be in tune with myself.
Sounds like a meditative practice.
Yeah, exactly. So it would be like, it's just me learning something, enjoying myself, being inspired, and just loving dancing to the music. And I first started doing it in a way that I was competing, and people started asking me. They were like, wow, you know, you're so good. Can you teach us? And I was like, well, okay, I can try. And this is how I started teaching pole. And
were you part in competitions?
Yeah. I was first. I was competing, so I was just traveling the world, being with, because pole dance was not developed in Cyprus 11 years ago. So
it still is quite something. It's not as new as it used to be, but it's still something that's, you know, people need a little bit of time to adjust to, I think, as a concept, or not.
Well, I think the people here, but they have become a much more better and wanting to try out things. But I mean, in other places, like if we're talking about the Russian, about the Russians in Cyprus, it has been, because pole dance has been very big in Russia already for the past 11 years.
And that's where you're from?
I was born, yes, in Russia.
You were born in Russia.
Yeah, but from 2.5 years, I've been living in Cyprus. So I'm somewhere in between where I was born and where I was living. So this is how I got into dance and how I continued my journey with it. And now I am in the stage where I opened my own studio, and I am more of like,
you've recently, like literally in the last couple of months from what I've been seeing.
I had the studio before, but it was under the umbrella of a dance school. And so now I actually, in January, I opened up my own space. Where
that must feel amazing.
Yes. Yeah. Because now when it's my space, it's programmed to be like a space that attracts people of the same frequency and vibration.
The energy you put into it.
Yes. So I opened up a field to it, and it's already my space where people who are attracted to this, they come. And I could even see by the clientele of how alike they are to the concept, to our concept. And so, right now I am in this... I am a dancer, right? But I feel that I'm not, even though I could be a teacher, and I am a teacher, but these labels, they are, they feel very tight on me right now, because I went through this path, and I am a bit like, I can say that I'm a mentor to the instructors that I have in the studio. But even that feels like, I would say that the thing that suits me right now the most is that I'm a space holder.
Okay.
So I hold a space for the things that I do. And there's so many things that I do.
I was going to ask you, like, because I've noticed that the studio itself isn't just exclusively for dance. There are other things that you bring into that. You've done circles there, you've done family constellations and bringing new people. So it seems like it's a space that you're giving people a flavor of everything that you are perhaps diving into.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the inspiration for the space was like, I want just a space where the creation process will be happening. And for each person that's going to enter this space, it's going to be their own story. They're going to create by being in this space. And I am here to offer the opportunities that resonate with me. So if I think that this instructor in dance, she really embodies the feminine and the sensuality, and the people that come to her, they start opening this up. So it's like you create the possibilities for others to open up and embody, especially for the feminine. For a lot of the things I do and the whole ideas, it is for the feminine.
Yes.
Because we live in a very patriarchal society, and the woman is suppressed
in certain aspects, especially around sexuality. Which is, dance is one of the ways that we are able to express ourselves and use our bodies to embody that sensuality and that sexuality and have less shame around it that has been put onto us, throughout the years. You mentioned that your mom was very pro you going into dance. She sounds like she's very open-minded. Is that something that you grew up with, like that encouragement of diving into different aspects of yourself because of her?
Yes, for sure. She's very open-minded, and like even my first ayahuasca experience was her going, and then she's like, you need to go to this, and I was like, okay.
Okay, I love your mom already. We've gone deep into the topics.
Yeah, she was like, I was like, okay, why not? And anything that you take, there's a very wide spectrum of it. So you can be like, you're open-minded, so you bring your children into something. But at the same time, I believe that the relationship between the mother and the child shouldn't be girlfriends and in a friendship.
How old were you when you told your mom you were going for your first ayahuasca experience?
Well, when she told me that I should go, I was 19.
You were 19.
Yeah. So it was actually 13 years ago that I had my first ayahuasca experience.
Today's episode is sponsored by Empowered New You, where we hold women's circles, ice bath and breathwork events and retreats across the world. You can find more information on www.drstefanos.com and in the description below. You'll be able to book your events with us as well as subscribe to our email newsletter where you'll be able to find more upcoming events. We hope to see you there.
The interesting part with my life experience is that I think things happen to me much more earlier than to some. So when things, if ayahuasca now is, and psychedelics is a very hot topic and people are being interested and they're just starting their journey, I already, let's say, kind of completed the journey. I already went through my experiences, through all kinds of deep things to eventually come to a space where I'm like, okay, I'm ready for another type of work.
Yeah.
And so my first experience, because I've had many within this 13 years, I mean, at least like 2 ceremonies per year, like for 3-day retreats, it was because there was an, let's say.
So how many is that in total?
Well, let's say around 30 at least. Yeah, 30 retreats. That would be. It was a part of the organization, so I was attending to be a part of it. So it wasn't like I need to go there. It was like, okay, I'm going to go. So a lot of the times I went, I didn't even have an intention to go. Let me just start from the beginning. When I had my first experience, it was very deep. It connected me with love. I had mixed emotions there. I cried, I laughed, I was full of love. It was a beautiful experience. I had my first ego death that happened there, where I was lying and there was a conversation within me asking me if I want to let go. And I went into yes, and then the beautiful journey of it happened. Then I did with the same shaman after a year. It was also a very nice experience. And then later on, I felt like I was really much stuck in my own traumatic. I had a relationship with my ex, and it was a very toxic relationship. So I think that I was so much engaged in this toxicity and trying to solve something that was not being solved, that the ayahuasca that I was going to, I was coming into being like, show me the way, show me the way. And my experiences afterwards, they were like nothing was happening. Like I would go into an experience, I would see some fractals, I would purge, and then nothing would happen. And so, but it was also my intention and my behavior how I went there. And so for a couple of years, when I would go back, I would just, while I was in that relationship, this was my experience was in such a way.
Wow.
And later on, I understood that the experience that you have is something that you already hold within yourself. Yeah. If you're constantly being a victim in your life, then your experience is going to show you that, hey, it's not working out. You're a victim, remember? So victims don't have experiences. So then they'll be like, oh, this experience, I didn't get anything from it, you know? And then all life is like, my relationship is not working out. I'm trying. And so there's this being stuck, being a victim. And guess what happens? The whole world mirrors to you this. It shows you in different perspectives that this is how you feel about yourself. This is how all your life experiences will be with everyone. In your relationship, in your friendship, in your career, whatever it is, you're always going to be the victim.
Yeah. And so whatever you're doing for your inner work in your daily life is exactly what is also shown to you in the ceremonies.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times we kind of expect that these psychedelics are going to give us the answers, but we hold a lot of the answers within us anyhow.
Of course, you don't really need them. So this is where I am right now. And then came already a stage in my life when I finished this and my relationship. And I went really into, coming out of being this victim and going on a, let's say, word empowering journey, but really trying to understand my essence. And the way to go through it is to actually dive through the wound, like to go deep inside of the wound.
And
not
how did
to
you
be
do that?
like a lot of things in general. I started trying out working with different people. So I did, let's say, some tantric healing where I went internally into my wound and breathing and a lot of shame and tears, and it was a very hysterical experience I had. Then ayahuasca journeys as well. Like I was going more with the intention that I want to open up my true essence.
Yes.
So my just intention during those years became that I want to be who I am truly. And before that, we were speaking with you that there is this layers of who am I. So you ask yourself, and then you shed some skin, and then you think you know, and you live within that. And then, suddenly this who I am doesn't already feel comfortable. And you understand that there's something just much more deeper to your presence, and you go into another experience. And again, there is this always, because the answer to who am I is not tangible and it's not materialistic. You cannot define it in the physical body and just be like, hey, I'm Olga and I am I have my own studio. I do some women circles. I'm a mentor. Like all these words, they're so primitive. In general, language is primitive because what we bring forward is the energy that we hold behind the words, and the words cannot fully describe it. So if I say the word love, it's love is just a word. But then what do we carry with ourselves when we use the word love?
It's the feeling, it's the energy of it.
Everyone will have their own experience. So even love becomes a spectrum. And sometimes people, when they have in a relationship, when one says, but I love you, and the other one says, you don't, because love for me is something else.
Yeah. They're not meeting each other the same energy level, the same frequency.
Exactly.
Yeah, what it represents.
So a lot of the things is in this world that you cannot explain them, you can only feel them. But to feel them, you need to shed a lot to really embody and engage into what is it that I'm feeling through my body. And most of us, we're living in our head. We're trying to solve everything through our head. Oh, this is not working out, so what can I do? And it's all about trying to solve and find the solution to the problem with the mind. But the answer is in your body. It's in your heart.
Yes.
If you really tune into it, your body is already telling you, like, does this work for me? Is this where I want to be? Where should I go? But the lack of being in connection with the body, it is the issue with most. And I'm using the body now because I will return to the ayahuasca experience. I'm going back to now to the psychedelic journey, that afterwards, when I went into this essence, I went much more deeper than the experience of the mind that was happening. So at the beginning, it was this, what is happening in my mind? So I'm maybe a victim, and here I'm doing my ayahuasca experience. I see some darkness, I cry, I see some people. And for a lot of people, this is what's happening. They see other people, they see their past traumatic experiences. It becomes that there's a lot of humans in the experience. You will see some fractals, but then there becomes your relationship with others. And then there's a deeper level where you are exiting this human realm, and it's not about the relationship with the people, it's your already connection with, I would say, maybe God. But it's, so I had to, even in my own experience, there was something happened that I went beyond. So I popped some bubble, and my experience became extremely intense. So I went into these coding spaces where there was a lot of, I would even say alien. It became very alien to everything. And first there was this period with this alien. I was like, where you ask life questions about like, what is the human existence? Why am I here? And you start seeing how, the body, it's all about the five senses. It's like if we take the camera and for the image to go through, there is the coding, right? There's 0 1s that somehow take the image. They are being processed and then you get the image. So this is what happens with our body. We're constantly sensing something, And our senses, they take this coding and we are living through it. So we have our smells, our hearing, our eyes, and the image is right in front of us. We don't see what is beyond, but we can feel what is beyond. But that again comes to your sensitivity of your body. Can you sense what is
your
happening
intuition
around
as well, to be able to feel into those things?
So things like channeling, things like your intuition, like just being there in tune with what is happening now beyond my body. And so there becomes this ayahuasca experience where you go beyond. When you actually see this, you're like, oh, my 5 senses are constantly sensing everything, because if I didn't have my mind, it would be a very chaotic experience, and I wouldn't be able to, what's the word? It's like, it's not suppressing, but to bring something together. Maybe you can help me out. So if we didn't have the mind and we would be in all of this, in the whole worldly, godly creation, everything becomes too much. And the body wouldn't be able to handle it.
Yes.
We would pop.
It's like you're having a crisis, like the body's having a crisis because it doesn't know. The mind actually helps us understand and process certain things. Whereas if you were to just experience everything all together, you would lose yourself. You would go crazy. You would lose it.
Yeah. Your body would just like there become fractals, and you wouldn't be able. So what the mind does, it brings everything together, and it's like, your eyes are going to experience this, your skin is going to experience this, and it becomes a much more easier experience for the human. So all that which is beyond becomes so into one. So it groups everything up, and you have this human experience. So when people are saying, the mind, we try to get rid of the mind, the thoughts and so on, it's like the mind is there for a reason, and it's not you're someone to actually be in war with. And I think that a lot of people, like now when meditation became extremely popular, we have this part where, again, it makes you feel that there's something wrong with your mind. Like there's something wrong with your thoughts, there's something wrong with you, and that you need to be this perfect being who doesn't have anything happening with you. And even like your life needs to be perfect, your mind needs to be like everything. But we do understand that if you know that while you're constantly searching how to be good enough, you will be constantly consuming. So once you're in this trap, you're feeding everyone else. So it's the purpose of everything is to just come and be in peace with yourself. Like I'm here with peace with who I am.
With whatever process you're going through, because, I know it sounds cliche, but it is really all about the journey. It's never about the destination. While you're going through it or whatever it is, the good times, the bad times, whatever you're processing, to be able to just notice them. It's not about getting anywhere, about just being able to experience it. And
exactly.
That's the beauty of being a human, to be able to have this human experience.
Exactly. It's like your body is here to actually enjoy it, that you are capable of experiencing such a big spectrum of emotions. And, sometimes experiencing pain can be feeling good if you don't go down the rabbit hole of this pain. But once you're like, wow, I can actually experience this pain because on the other side I can strongly experience love as well. And it's noticing that what am I experiencing, like what am I going through?
While I'm sitting here interviewing you, I'm also envisioning myself like I'm listening to a podcast myself. So it's like I'm in this like dimension of a dimension, exactly as you described, like a portal, because you're so, you're fascinated by what you're talking about, and you've dived deep into this.
Yeah, exactly. This is why all the experiences, even through dance or conversations, is about taking the person on the journey. And this is, how do you call that? How do you label that? So sometimes I'm like, okay, it's I'm a space holder, I would say, because if I'll say I'm a portal opener, it's like, what is like? That? What is that like to other galaxies? But actually it is. You open up a certain space where the person is being engaged, not only like you're physically engaged into this whole thing, you're feeling what I'm speaking about. And so how do you call this? You cannot explain it by words.
You can't, no.
You can only feel it with your body, with what is going on.
It's like what they say when they come to the spaces that we hold here in the house. It's like you've entered a portal, you've entered another time and space, and every space holder brings their own element and perception and perspective to how they design that space. And the experience of it is so beautiful in itself.
It's a very shamanic thing. This is a very shamanic. This is actually what a shaman does. What is a psychedelic? Any psychedelic experience, even with ayahuasca, your experience as well will be as much as how much your shaman is holding the space for you. Yeah. So it's actually a shamanic experience. So sometimes it does depend on but if the frequency of the shaman right now there, he doesn't want to open the space, you will not be able to go somewhere beyond. What happens with the psychedelic experience as well is when you are getting out of the mind, and what is it that you see, and you're the person, let's say, that came, let's say the shaman, he has to drink his brew as well, So he drinks it, and then he starts his experience. So he opens the door and he's saying, okay, right now in my frequency, in my life, I've reached this stage. This is what I can open to you. And you walk into this door and you have the experience on the frequency that he gives you. So when I went and I started having these experiences out, what happened in the circle is that the shaman, he started being very interested in what is my experience. And it came to me that it's very important to have women in the experience, because women are the portals to the divine.
I cannot believe you are saying this. I'm getting goosebumps because I was going to go to Colombia and we were going to go for an ayahuasca retreat. And I found out it was all men and me. And I decided that I wasn't ready for that.
Yeah, you would have to do a lot of work.
And I instinctively, I knew that, okay, this is not what I signed up for. So I backed out.
Yeah, because you would have to carry the whole thing.
Yes. And I instantly, as soon as I heard it, I thought, okay, tap into that mother earthly energy that you have. And I thought, I can't freaking hold that. Like, I need to stand back from this. And again, that's tapping into your own intuition and knowing that wasn't the right thing to do at the right time, and feeling into it and acknowledging it. You've mentioned that obviously you've had a journey with ayahuasca and psychedelics, but now you are on another path, or you are integrating new things.
Yes. So actually, because I wanted to finish a bit with the ayahuasca, let me just go back there so that I can tell you one of my last experiences, because we spoke now about this feminine, so I think it's important to mention it, was when I had. So I already told, like, my experience became too intense. So what does it mean too intense? Is that whatever the vibrations were happening in the space, they were happening on my physical body. So my voice started opening up, and I would be creating extremely weird alien vibration sounds that I would not be able to do lying down. My body started moving in ways, so I would get up.
So while you're in the ceremony, this is the process you're going through.
Yeah, like my body was there was a lot of contractions. There was like as if like my hands,
your face, your sound,
everything. Like there was a lot of movement within my muscle that was like, it was feeling like I am, I'm having something inside of my body, which is moving me.
So you were able to observe this while you were going through it as well, but you were noticing that it's not you moving.
Yes, exactly. And one of my last sessions, I connected with God and I asked him to show me what is my feminine, like what is the feminine. And there was this beautiful story of how, the creation of happened, but the world is actually created for the woman. It was like a gift, to the Mother Earth, and it was for her. And it was because like God, when he extracted, because it's a very complicated, let's say, thing to understand. So I'm going to try to make it more primitively, that there's a lot of energy, and there's something about the Shakti energy. There's something about this nurturing, loving energy. And this energy was, for it, the world was created. And it was put, let's say, in more of a feminine, it was a creation, and it was a feminine creation, the energy itself. So the world was created for it. And then whatever happened next on, God did create man instead of himself, because there was a very big love. This woman, she was so in love with God, but he was too much and everywhere. So to help her out, he made himself into the shape, let's say, of a man that came to this earth to protect the woman, to give her the space, to be the space holder for her chaotic and beautiful energy, so that he holds her.
Yes.
And so the woman herself, she is the creator. She's the one that gives the life force to so many things. And whatever then happened, kids and human evolution happened, the world became patriarchal. But the world before was a place for women. It was all created for women. Yeah. But then there was just masculine jealousy towards the woman. Why is she given this?
Yeah.
And so I was then taken into to how do you understand really that? It's because the woman was given a uterus, and the uterus, it's the portal to God, because only through the uterus does the soul come down from him. This is something which is intangible, and he sends the soul down into you, and you're capable of giving. And pregnancy, birth, it's just magic. Like I look at my son and I'm like, I cannot believe I created a human. And my hair is like goosebumps everywhere. And when I gave birth in the first week, after you have your baby blues and stuff, I was holding my child and I was crying because I could not imagine how I'm even given, like me as a woman, like my power.
How have you done that?
How have I done this? And how is this even given to me? Like, oh my God, this love.
Creation.
Yes. Like
creation.
Just holding this creation, this like life force, like everything. And you've done this and you're just crying and you're like, oh my God, this love is just so much that I cannot even handle it. That even this love can be so painful to handle because it's just such a strong and an overwhelming experience. And so when I had this ayahuasca experience with that, it gave me such a strong belief. I was like, yeah, I have already the connection with the divine. I already am feeling it through my body. I'm feeling all this space. So why? This is so important to now integrate into your life. And from then on, it gave me so much more power to be the creatrix of my own life and just go forward with it. So I think that there was this very important ceremonies where they were not about my subconscious, but they were actually the conversation with God, where I got something that I could then use. And this made me, as we were saying, portal opener. What I mean by being the portal holder is that you as a woman, your connection with God is already so strong that men they have, but it's not the same. They cannot bring souls onto planet. So when you are in ceremony, you're opening this portal to God. And whatever you're channeling at that time in your ceremony, it what spreads. So if you are having an intense experience, everyone's having an intense experience. Yeah. And I could then see it by psychedelics, like mushrooms. We would do mushrooms, and then I'd be like, okay, now I need to be very careful with this, because if I'm having an experience, it will be extremely intense. I could grab a strawberry and just start having an orgasm from the sourness, because it just touches me, and then I'm like, wow. And you could just see me being so intense in this trip that people are like, what is going on here? And I'm just like, my taste buds are going to level 3000 just to have this human experience of that. And so then we started doing a bit of the ceremonies where I would say, okay, if we're doing this with me, you have to know that this is going to be an intense experience.
Okay.
And that's what would happen. We would do, if you do a ceremony, you as the woman, you are bringing the portal. So when I learned already through the psychedelic experience that this is what is already happening, I know that I'm holding it already now here.
Yes.
It's
already within you.
It's within me.
Yeah.
So then this already shifted into things like I open up my studio and I open up the portal here.
Yeah.
I make my women's circle, I open up a portal here. I don't need a psychedelic experience to bring that, because I went through this journey. Yeah. It was my journey, it was my path, and now I learned. And so this is how I transitioned from it to say that was an experience. What I can say about ayahuasca, and I think like maybe as well like mushrooms and other like because I tried 5-MeO DMT, and it's like they're all heart openers.
Yes.
It's all about opening your heart to be able to feel, because again it goes to this body. Like when your heart is open and you feel, it's easier for you to feel things in your life. But what happens with psychedelics is that your body, your like, let's say your aura, your energy space, what happens, it blows up during any psychedelic experience. You become so wide and big that when you come back into humanity, it's really hard.
That was my next question for you. How did you integrate, after having so many ayahuasca experiences with planet Earth, like the world, through my own experiences, I felt like I was so disconnected that it was so hard to be able to to speak to people, to connect to people, I was on such a different level of vibration that I didn't need anyone.
Yeah.
I
Exactly.
didn't have to even speak to anyone. I was so happy with just being in this utopia of my own space, my own world, my own words, my own vibration, my own thoughts, that I didn't have to call anybody. I didn't have to speak to my mom. I didn't, but to the outside world, it's really hard for them to be able to accept like where you're at. So how did you, after having so many experiences, integrate back into the world?
Well, that was the issue. And that is the issue still, is that you, in this experience, you fly out of your body. The body, remember, the mind and the body is what grounds you on planet Earth. Or during any psychedelic experience, it opens up your everything. You fly out. You're so connected with the vibrations that then later on you have a hard time connecting with people and even with yourself. And so what would happen? For me, it was dance. I would go back into my body by dancing and by trying to go back, but it doesn't mean that I was always out. I was in my head, I was always out. I was out. And so I found that there is a very big, let's say, empty space, like black space, that there's something should be done about this. And
so
I know
you were dancing to come back into your body, or you were dancing to have the experience of coming out of yourself?
No, I was using my body, like physical exercise, to ground myself.
Okay, yes.
To ground. So if you do psychedelics and you don't work, I don't actually know what integrative, now that it's very popular to be an integrative coach,
yes.
A psychedelic integrative coach that help
yeah.
you to ground all this information. But I would say that you need to go and physically start actually working out, like start doing practices that make it like go and grab some barbells, like do some physical exercise, so that you're not just sitting there and being like, let me think about life again and my experience, and then like, why do I need to connect with everyone? You try to bring yourself back into doing the basic things humans do. Connect, with just go work out, speak with your family, basic things, the primitive things, even small chit chats, they ground you.
Yes.
It's very important to have that. There's moments for deep conversation, and then there's moments just to relax, and you don't need to be thinking about life and the universe and the reason for all of this. You can just have a basic conversation, and it's relaxing.
Boom. I see you watching. And really enjoying this episode. So if you're this far through the episode, make sure that you like and subscribe. It really helps our channel. Thank you.
So I basically found that there's this issue with after doing psychedelics that it's hard to come back.
Yes.
So this is when I decided that I've already went down there. I got a lot of the things that I needed to get from it. It opened up my heart. It opened up my sensitivity to the universe. It made me understand my power, like how to work with the field. And so then I started doing psychoanalysis. And psychoanalysis is actually what brought me back into my body more.
What is psychoanalysis?
So
how would you describe it?
It's not therapy. It's not psychology. So there is psychotherapy, psychiatry, psychology, all of this. And then there is psychoanalysis. It can belong to a school, but I specifically go for Lacanian psychoanalysis.
Okay.
So it was, there was Freud, and his student Lacan was inspired by his work. And then he basically took what Freud has already said and tuned it up and gave much more detail. So if I would describe Lacanian psychoanalysis, it's like it's physics. If you try to read a book, you will not understand what is written. Only the person that goes through his own psychoanalytical approach, through his own psychoanalysis, will be able to understand what those words specifically mean. And as I said before, language is so primitive. So the way they have their terms or things that are written, you need to go beyond the language to actually understand what is being said. So Lacanian psychoanalysis, you cannot become a Lacanian psychoanalyst. Like you cannot go to university and get it done. It is something that you need to have many years of your own sessions. And then when your analyst understands that you're ready, you join a school They have their own way how you need to go through to become an analyst, but it's something which can take you up to 20 years to even, like someone can, after 8-10 years.
You are practicing this for your own
Maybe.
healing journey, or for you to become it?
Well, I am already 5 years in having my sessions because I am interested about the depth of where it's going, like to be able to read the texts, and then who knows.
Talk to me about family constellations.
It's a new journey of my life. So it's, and you will see that this trend is going to become more powerful now. So it's like it started from the beginning. People don't know what is going on, but you will see how it will, even speaking about it now, it's taking it out into the world. Last year, something came to me that I'm not connected with my ancestors. That like, okay, there's my grandparents, but like you remember them when they passed away, but you're not really using any sort of their resources, the energy. Like you're not, I haven't been putting any thought into my ancestors and the power they had and who these people were and the fact that they were all alive and here I am today due to all these people that existed before me. And I felt like I have no connection to it. I don't remember how this happened, but for the whole year, I just had this thing like, work with your ancestors, work with your ancestors. You need to work with your ancestors. And I did the Deepak Chopra challenge. And on one of the last days, there is a text that you need to write. And in that text, the last lines were said like, I ask my ancestors to bless me for that I have like that for me to live a much more better life than they did. And when I wrote this text and I focused on these 2 lines, this is what triggered me to start I was like, I'm asking for the blessing of my ancestors when I had no connection to them.
Who are they?
Like, who are they? And suddenly I'm here asking for their power. So for the whole year, I was this thought in my, you need to work with your ancestors. So I started asking friends. I was like, did you do any work with ancestors? And some were like, oh, no, not yet, but I'm interested. So I felt that this subject was around me. And I was watching a podcast on YouTube, and there's a girl said, the changes in my life started happening with me when I did family constellation work. Like that, like made very big change to my success and to the money that I started earning. And I was like, for this whole year, I'm constantly thinking of ancestors, and here she's using the words family constellations to work with the ancestors. I was like, very interesting. So I'm standing in my kitchen and I'm saying, I need my teacher for family constellations to come to me. I'm ready to do this work.
Yes. Calling them in.
Yes. And the next day, like not in 24 hours, I get a text message from a friend saying, there was family constellations in Lebanon, but they didn't give the insurance to the facilitator. So they decided to change the location and they're bringing him over to Cyprus. And so there's a couple of spaces left.
No way.
I did not even think about, I was like, I'm in, like I just 24 hours ago, I made, I asked God for help and here he is giving it to me. I need to go. So I went to I didn't have any expectations. I mean, the first time I found out about constellations was 13 years ago. And there was a certain, like an experience, but I guess the girl was a bit experimenting. So I did not like understand what was really happening there. I understood that you need to, use people to, you put someone for your mother, for representatives.
So they play out roles of your past, because I've had one and it wasn't a nice experience and it was online. So it didn't feel like it was interactive enough or deep enough. So I'm really curious because I know that I've already been drawn to it and interested in it. So I'm ready to actually dive deeper into it.
Yeah, especially with Shavasti, he's definitely a shaman. Like it's such a next level. If I'm here speaking about these experiences, you can already imagine that for me to be impressed by someone's work, it means like it's even beyond an ayahuasca experience. Like I can say it like this. And so when I went to his constellation, I felt like I was in some sort of Harry Potter movie because the way that he reads the field and the things that are coming up. So you sit down and you have a request, let's say, but the request, this is even like you can come there with a request and say, I think that I want to go and work with my success, or I want to go and work there with my sickness. But the moment you sit next to him on the chair, you will have images of that, what is really important for you to come out. And he always says at the beginning, like, you can come here with an intention, but it will change most probably. So sometimes not so easy to hold on. I mean, I went into my work and I did my, what I came with my intention, but with the other people, I saw that, you know, their journey just started. So there's much more important things to deal with. And usually it's about the death of someone. So first you need to work with that. There has been someone missing in the family. Someone has passed away.
Physically dead physically. Or emotionally, like
no physically. It's most of the time physically. And the presence of someone who has not been given a place can actually be affecting you, and you not finding yourself in life. Like you might feel that there's something going on and you're trying, but things are not happening to you. And it's a bit complicated to let's say describe, but let me just tell you what is happening in the session. So you come there with a request, and he looks into your field, and then depending on what your intention is, he will call out people to make the representation of something. So it can be either of people or a situation.
Okay.
So he's going to come out and place, and when the person appears in the field while you're sitting there, you will have an emotional reaction through your body. So what he's all the time speaks about is saying, connect to your body and not to your mind.
Yes.
And if you did not believe that there is a way to feel stuff with your body while working with him in the family constellation, you will be shocked of how the body senses everything. And very often after the constellation, this is what people say. They say, I could not imagine that I could feel life in such a way as I do now after the constellation, because they connected to the body. Because in their own experience, in their own constellation work, they went through a very deep experience within their body. So my last experience, when I started speaking about it, my lips started shaking, and he told me he said, stay with this tremor. And what started happening, I started shaking like this. And for 5 minutes, I was just having tears go down my face. And I turned around and I said, terror. I feel terror in my body. And it's like, I could never, if you ask me, how does terror feel? I'd be like, well, maybe my stomach is a bit like this compressed. But how I felt it in the field, that the terror was, my world was shaken so much that I was like, I was paralyzed, and just tears were coming, and I was just shaking of how much what this terror is.
And that's something that you've experienced within your life that's being represented through you in that moment, or something that's stored within you?
Well,
like, why were you experiencing terror in that moment?
Well,
is that something that, obviously it's something that needs to be released, that's within you?
Yes,
but it's
yes.
Is it an ancestral thing, or is it something that you have actually experienced when you were a child?
That's something that I have experienced as I was a child. So this is a bit of a very vulnerable topic. Okay. But I think
if you want to go into it, yeah.
I don't mind sharing, because I think that it is very important to hear. Because this could help a lot of women to understand. So I was sexually abused when I was 5 years old. And basically this really traumatized me as a child, because it made me lose my, like, who am I? Like, what am I as a woman? And this made me a victim in life. I started feeling that, first of all, the world is not a safe place. It's not safe being a woman. I am objectified as a sexual object. And, what is my even sexual, identity? Will I be able to have sexual encounters with men in the future? Like, I don't feel safe about it. So as a child, this really broke my world. And it made me troubled. And so this is why when I could, at the age of 12, 13, to start doing healing work, I took the responsibility onto myself and I went down this journey. So this is why, like, it doesn't arise something in me, because I've worked with this and I don't mind sharing about, because it's not it doesn't break me. I think it's actually empowering. I am who I am today due to this experience, and everything that I am doing is here so that I can actually share that you can be happy, you can have a successful marriage, love your children, have a very good relationship with your sexuality. You can really embody your body. So everything that is a stigma that there's sexual abuse and you're totally lost, I can say that no, it's all about the work that you do. And how I feel myself in life, I wish that a lot of women could feel and have such an engagement with life as I do. And so I would like to share about it, that you can heal, but it's all, again, are you being a victim and saying that things are happening to you, or are you ready to exit from there and start creating the opportunities and creating the options for yourself? How do I get out of there, and how do I become a woman? And for you to first of all even
fully embody
understand
that, to fully embody that woman that you are, you know, irrelevant to your experiences. Thank you so much for sharing that. You know, it takes a lot of courage to be able to publicly say that, and you are inspiring so many women out there that live with this stigma, that believe, you know, they are less of because of that. But in fact, it's empowering to be able to voice the things that we've been through and to share them.
Yeah, because this is, you said, how do you go through the wound before? And this is it. You go into the wound, you're like, this is the experience that I had. And it's going to be a painful experience emotionally, but your heart will be able to take it.
Yes.
Because most of the time we think that we cannot access the wound because we're going to die from the pain. And you see a lot of people that are like, they just start speaking about, they start crying, and they're like, I cannot go there. It's just too painful. And it's like, well, the only thing between your true essence of who you are and living a happy and peaceful life with yourself is actually to just dive into it and allow yourself to go. And, you know, the grief, the pain, the anger, everything, it's going to release and you're going to become free from it. But while you're holding on to it, you're not allowing yourself to live a full life. And then you see that, you know, people are gaining more weight, eating disorders, you know, abusive, toxic relationships. Like, all of this is built because you're so much in pain to actually go into your wound to release yourself. Because at the end of the day, you are the one holding your own pain. No one is doing the pain to you. You're the one that's holding on to this wound and being like, I cannot access it. And I would really encourage and say, there's nothing wrong. It's going to be, but it's going to open up your heart so much. It's going to open up your life, and it's going to clear your path to make the right decision, to actually choose a partner who loves you, to actually go into your career and make your surrounding and your community of people that also love you and care because they're on the same vibe. But this will only happen when you stop holding on to something which doesn't serve you.
Yes.
Yeah. And so this, going back to my constellation, when I sat there and I've worked with this issue in all kinds of, in my ayahuasca experience, in my analysis, in everything, but I knew that there is something stored on my body that I still haven't released. And this was my intention. I came and I sat there and I said, I know that there is something in my body that hasn't been released, and I want to take it out here. And as soon as I started speaking in that field, my lips started shaking. And then I just started, because I went into the wood of feeling terrorized. I felt how my body was terrorized by someone. And I was just crying and I could not breathe. And I had this like kind of like a panic attack type thing. I was sitting there breathing, shaking. And then I started slowing down and I came in such a nice peace. And when already because what the situation created for me, made me feel not safe. So when I closed my eyes and he asked me, like, if I feel safe, with who do I feel safe in my family? All the faces that appeared, everything went dim, and I felt that I blocked myself from everyone and I don't feel safe with anyone except my husband. And so my husband stood next to me in my constellation work, and my perpetrator, the person, stood in front of me. And when he stood in front of me, the only thing I felt I had a mourning for his soul. I started crying because once I loved him. It was my cousin. I loved this person because I grew up with him, and he was my brother, and I lost this brother due to his desires. And I remembered the love I had, that once there was this love, and this, brought me into tears because it's so sad that how could you do this to yourself? How could you lose the love to the family? And, he's in a very dark place. He's like, he's a heroin addict, like all his life, he's just a mess. And, and you look and, it's not pity. Don't mix it with there's not pity. It's about really in your heart, mourning the soul of someone and being like, your soul you know, I really, I'm just, I wish you love, and I wish you peace.
That shows how much work you've done on yourself when you're able to still find love for a person that has hurt you in such a way, or in any way, really.
Yeah.
So, that's incredible.
That's like, you release yourself from this, and then I in this field, as I said, you can really see the truth. What is really the truth in your body?
Yes.
And in my truth, I felt the love, and I just like let it go. And then in the work, I was, let's say, given back my innocence. So I was told, here's your innocence back, and I took it. And then I saw the true love between me and my husband, because he was there. That actually, look how beautiful everything turned out to be.
Yeah.
And so
everything was exactly as it was meant to be.
Yeah. And so when you finish your work and you sit down, you feel like my energy was drained. And for the whole week, like I was sleeping, and I couldn't have enough sleep, because it was such an important and very deep work done.
Yes.
And so I cannot even explain what is happening in the constellation, because you need to experience with your body.
When is he in Cyprus again? I'm coming.
In February. The next workshop is in February.
Okay.
Yes.
Sign me up. So Olga, you've done so much work on yourself. You bring so much of this through your studio as well, and people have access to. You started your own healing at about 13, you said, right? And you have a child.
Yeah.
I'm interested to know, like, how will you guide your own, you have a son?
Yes.
Your son into this kind of work? Is it something you will
first of all
push him to do, encourage him to do?
Well, first of all, the kids, they come into your life. So whatever you are already bringing on the table there into your, they sense it and they come into it. Second, perfect parents don't exist. So no matter how much work we do, it's we don't want to have a perfect child. We will still be traumatizing him. And even now, when I see that he's growing up, he's 1 and 10, and I'm leaving the house and he's creating tantrums because he misses me, I'm already traumatizing him. He's already feeling that the moment of separation in general is traumatizing. So no matter what you do, he will have to go on his own journey when he is ready. So does he have a mother that knows tools and things? Yes, but it will be up to his own desire to make the decisions when he wants it and how he will do it. Will he be going to maybe some place that we're doing a retreat? Yes, he will be there joining us, but it will never be pushed onto him that this is what you need. Because that is actually what's going to traumatize him. It will take away from him the main thing, his own desire. To be like, hey, I know better than you that, you know, you need to try out all these things. He's my child, so he has to, he doesn't have to, I want him to stay in his childhood as much as he can. And then, you know, whatever the circumstances and life holds for us, I cannot predict. I accept everything. And I accept, first of all, his journey. I'm here as his mother and I will do my best. But the most important thing that I think that, it's not the trauma, but like the most important thing for a child is to see the love between the parents. If the mother and the father are in love and their love is there, this is the most important thing, because the child does not take the responsibility onto himself and thinking like, oh, my parents are miserable, I will try to make them happy. When you're happy, you're taking away the responsibility. You're like, you are our child.
Yes.
And we're here, we're adults and we love each other and we're going to figure everything out.
Yeah.
So not putting that the responsibility. And then you know, if you ask any child, like, what is the thing that you want? And the child will say, I want my parents to be happy. And even us, like, I know that I want my parents to be happy. And I know from my own experience of whatever was happening that I was taking the responsibility for my parents' happiness. I was like, well, I'm going to grow up and I'm going to do this. I'm going to, you know, do this for my dad, or I'm going to do this for my mom. It's like my parents are adults. They should know how to take care of themselves and allow me to be the child and be,
to take that role.
Yes. And to send the love, you know, from the generation down, not upwards. So we're not the parents for our parents, because once we do that, we stop existing. And this is even the family constellation work, is that you need to take your place as a child, and the love flows downwards. If the love flows upwards, it's death, because there is no creation. So once you don't take your position as a child who is creating the future, you don't exist. And once you don't exist, this is why you're constantly searching for who am I and what do I do in my life? Because you need to stand in your position and really embody your life, your soul, your purpose, and just be like, this is me. This is who I am. And I'm not here to satisfy my parents. And I'm not here to satisfy anyone. I am here to just have my own human experience.
And to satisfy myself first and foremost.
Yeah, for sure. So that's my thing with my child. And that's...
We have spoken about so much today. It's been absolutely fascinating to dive into all of these different topics and to have you on here. Thank you so much for being part of it.
Thank you for inviting me.
And we'll definitely catch up again soon.
Sure.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching this episode. It's been an absolute pleasure filming it for you guys. If you like the work that we are putting out into the world, please make sure you like this video and you subscribe to our channel. It really helps the work that we do.
And if you would like to follow our journey on our IG account, as well as learn more about our services, we provide everything for you in the description below. Thanks for watching.